Hi, this is Yvonne, and in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 goal creation strategies. You'll learn the key strategies that successful people use to create their goals. But before we jump in, let's build a community and share in the comment section below what are the key strategies that have helped you create your goals. So these are the goal creation strategies that have worked for me. The first is just write it down. Write down everything you want to be, do, or have. There's a quote by Mark Victor Hansen. It says, "By recording our dreams and goals on paper, we set in motion the process of becoming the person we most want to be. Put your future in good hands, your own." So with that quote, let's go ahead and get started. There's actually a few tips on the goal writing and goal creation process. The first is journal writing. I'm sure you've heard this before, and believe it or not, it took me, I would almost say like a few months before I actually started incorporating this from the first time I heard it. So for journal writing, you want to pick a time either in the morning, the afternoon, or in the evening that works best for you, that you can turn this into a habit and just write. Write what your goals are and what you potentially see for your life. This is a journal that I started with, and if you can see, it's leather bound. It's got tons of pages. This is the one that I completed just last month. It's a really pretty journal, and I got this in a bookstore, and if you can see all this writing that I have, and I even doodle on it. I just write down, let's see. Oh, here's a drawing of landscaping that I'd like to see in the back of my dream home, the garden. Here is, this is the Wheel of Life, an activity. We can talk about that later and what that is. But yeah, so all these pages are written and they've got tons of stuff. And so these are all, so you see, I'm not just saying this, I'm actually, this is something that I do. And so I was really excited when I finished this after a year, and I got to pick out my new journal, and I figured this one's really cute. So you can pick out the design that works for you, something that's exciting, something that you can't wait to grab your cup of coffee and just write in your journal, and it's your time. You can use as much as 5 minutes, 20 minutes time, whatever you have, but just build that habit. You're going to see within a few months just the changes that happen. And I'm excited for you if you choose to do that. So journal writing, I would say, is the first habit that would be nice to get into that has worked for me. The second is, as you write your goals, start thinking about structure and how you structure your goals. When you start writing them down, sometimes you tend to write them in a vague, ambiguous way. That's okay to start, but then start funneling it down into something more specific. There's a SMART goal setting strategy. It's an acronym. S stands for specific. You want your goal to be specific. M stands for measurable. You want to be able to measure the progress of the goal to make sure that you're closer to achieving it. A is achievable, something that is within your range at this moment that you can strive for so that you can maintain that momentum and that excitement for that goal. And guess what? Once you reach the top, there's more to see, and then you can continue to advance that way, but make sure that it's achievable. And then R is realistic, something that's realistic for you and your lifestyle and what's working for you right now. And the T stands for time frame, time bound. You want to put some guardrails and some boundaries around that goal so that it has a time space that you have set for it to come to fruition. And that also allows you to measure it as well. So the SMART technique has worked. So for example, if your goal is to save for an emergency fund, and there it is, that's the goal. Well, when you're creating that goal, maybe you can introduce the SMART technique by saying, okay, let me be specific. Well, I'd like to save for an emergency of 6 months. Okay, that's specific. Measurable. How can you measure that? Well, maybe I'd like to be able to survive without having to work for 6 months. And I know through going through my expenses, it's about $5,000, or it could be something different for you. And so you're saying, okay, I want to save $5,000 for every month for 6 months. Okay, that's you're getting close there, right? So you're funneling and whittling down that goal to be more specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time frame. So you might be able to say, well, I'd like to be able to save for this within the next year. So December, at the end of December this year, at the end of the year, I'll be able to have this emergency fund that I can rely on. And so you'll start building these goals in a smart way. The other point I wanted to share with you in terms of writing things down is making sure that our goals are structured in different categories. And so when you start writing your goals, don't worry about this, but when you're reviewing them, it'd be nice for you to start looking at what category does this goal belong to. And so there are actually 3 different categories that I've learned through Bob Proctor and Sandy Gallagher and an institute they call the Proctor Gallagher Institute. They have different trainings, and I've actually been to one of them called the Paradigm Shift. And I learned so much, and I wanted to share that with you here. And so what I learned was that there's 3 different types of categories for goal creation, and they call it the ABC goals. A is a goal that you've done before, and yes, it could be something that is a valid goal that you've written down, but it's something you've done before. There's no real newness to it or growth within it. So for example, in my case, I've had my car for 10 years and it's time to buy another one. I keep my car for a long time. I like to do that. But it's a no-brainer. I know what the process is and the steps for this goal. Or let's say I wanted to buy a new house. I've done that before. And I actually do have a goal to buy a dream home, something that's bigger, more comfortable for us as the family is growing. But that's an A goal because I've gone through the home purchasing process before, even though it's maybe a bigger house or something more comfortable, but still it is an A goal because this is something that I've done before. So start thinking about the goals that you have listed. Does that fall within the A category? Now the B category is a goal that is something you have not done before, but if you have a plan and you create a plan and you gather the right resources, you pretty much know what you need to do to get there. So for example, I've been a project manager for about 15 years. And if I wanted to be a director and move up in terms of a promotion, I just need to gather the information, maybe from my network, and set myself up for a promotion should I choose to do that. The plan is clear. Or maybe you're a marketing manager and you'd like to be in a director role. Or let's start thinking about things that, whatever the goal is that you've set for yourself, if you have a clear path and a plan for it, and you know the steps to achieve it, that would fall into the B goal category. Now, the C category of goals, now that's the one that is a stretch goal. This is something you want to do, but you've never done this before. This is big, and it's gonna need a lot of believing in yourself and a lot of faith to be able to achieve this because it is outside of your range. It's so scary, sometimes it could even make you sick just thinking about it. Well, that's the C goal. And that's the goal, believe it or not, where we grow. There's growth in that C goal. Let's say, for example, you're an accountant and you've been doing this for quite some time, but there's creative juices flowing within you and you would love to be able to get into a more creative space, more artistic, and maybe even start a business in that area. And you have no idea where to start. Your network has nothing to do with that. You maybe don't even know how to draw, right? But something's pulling you there. So that is a C goal because it's going to take a lot of learning and growth and researching, investigation, and maybe totally getting out of your network, building a new network of friends to be able to support you that way, and even getting a mentor. And a mentor would be ideal in this space if you've got some of those C goals. So yeah, so the A, B, C goals, you're going to want some C goals in there because that's where the juice of life is. That's where the growth is. And life is all about growing and learning, isn't it? That's where the passion could potentially be. So don't limit yourself to A and B goals. Go for the C goals because that's where we stretch. That's where those big goals can stretch us and stretch that ability within us and inside us to be a bigger and better version of ourselves. The second strategy is ask why. You see, the real task is identifying what we want and then why it is that we want it. And that's where the why comes in. So go back on the list that you've created. Remember that list with everything you want to be, do, and have. The ones that you reviewed to make sure that they were smart and using the SMART technique. And just ensuring that they were across the different categories, A, B, and C categories. Well, go back to that. And once that's put together, you'll want to review them and maybe write the word why next to each one of them. And then you're going to start seeing what's really the driver behind this goal. You see, once we have a substantial why and something that is emotional, something that ignites that passion within us, then we'll have more chances of actually achieving that goal. So that's why it's so important for us to identify why it is that this goal came up for us. So for example, in my situation, just recently, I had the opportunity of speaking at the Project Management Institute Washington, D.C. chapter. Now, I live in Florida, and so that would mean my traveling up to D.C. and meeting new people and exposing myself to a much broader audience, about 400 people that I had not been able to have the opportunity to do before, and touching people's lives and reaching out with my message. And so I had spoken to my mentor about this. I wasn't quite sure if this was something that I really wanted to step up and do. But after that conversation, and again, she's a life coach. So of course, she asked, well, Yvonne, what is your why? Anchoring that why really helped me to step up and actually do it. Now, you're going to want to make sure that your goals are balanced. Now, what does that mean by in balance? Well, if you think of your life in terms of categories, what are the different categories? And oftentimes in my research, I've found that they fall into 7 predominant categories. For example, health, career, spiritual, social, financial, mental, or family and friends. And these are not set in stone. You can do your own research and identify what are the 7 or 5 that work for you, or maybe just 3 categories. But you're going to want to identify how these goals fit into those different aspects of your life, just to make sure that they're in balance. Think of an investment portfolio. You're going to do that for your finances. You take a look at your stocks and you make sure that you have them in different categories so that it shows a nice balance. So the same thing with your goals. Why is that? Well, oftentimes when we suffer in one area, for example, we're suffering with not having great relationships with our friends and family. Well, maybe that's because we were so focused on the area, for example, on the career. Our career is thriving and we're doing so well, but then there's other areas that just we see that there is lack and they're suffering and they're in pain. And so, but if we bring this out into the onset and into the light, and we say, wait, hold on, these are the different categories of my life, and I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to this so that these don't fall out of balance. That makes sure that we stay healthy and happy and joyful when we create a balance for our goals. So in summary, the 3 goal creation strategies are writing it down, asking why, and achieving balance. I've put together a goal setting workbook that's going to help you achieve exactly this. Click on the link below to get your free gift. It's really going to help you not only create your goals, but support you in achieving them. If you like this video, click on the like button and subscribe to this channel so that you're notified on more videos on personal development, leadership, and so much more.